What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with Adam Ronis, bringing you the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS live stream here for Friday's NBA DFS main slate. Adam, you're the man of the playbook. 7 games today. A lot of injury news kind of coming out. Some very interesting game totals that we have to pay attention to. I think some pretty obvious chalk as well that we're going to get to as well. You did all the research today. How are you feeling about everything?
It's okay. I mean, like you said, there's a lot of plays that are pretty obvious tonight. So for cash games, you're going to see high ownership, and then you're going to have to determine what to do in tournaments. How much of that chalk do you want to play? Right. Obviously, with Luka Doncic being out for Dallas, that opens up a lot of value. Memphis is a little bit shorthanded, so there's some cheap guys there. So there's going to be some plays that people aren't looking at that could go off tonight and win the slate.
For sure. And we're also got to kind of predict some rotations there in Memphis or in Dallas as well. We're assuming Jalen Brunson could start, but he could start, play 20 minutes. It could be JJ Barea, it could be Dylan Wright. Like, whole number of guys could end up being. So also going to be rolling the dice a little bit there and just kind of hoping we can go ahead and predict it. Some high game totals here that we are looking at tonight. Memphis, New Orleans, 242.5 now I'm seeing. So that number keeps on rising. From last night, it opened at 241. So it keeps popping up there. Dallas, Houston's at 236. Portland, LA's 230.5. Every game was actually over 220. So it's going to be a high scoring night again. Probably 400 points on FanDuel is a winner for sure.
Yeah, it definitely appears that way. Some really good offensive environments tonight. And even the ones in the 220s, I could see several of those going over as well.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. So let's waste no time. Let's jump into it, into that playbook that you spent your time doing today. At the top, Russell Westbrook, 11-1 on FanDuel. He's 10-5 over on DraftKings. We have a little bit of a pricing discrepancy. Higher ownership projected over on FanDuel today, which makes sense. You can always fit in more players over on FanDuel. But how are you feeling overall with Houston? We saw James Harden come back the other day. Still didn't look 100%, didn't perform at 100%, and Westbrook keeps on rolling. Of the point guards today, is Westbrook your number one guy?
If you have the money to spend up, I think you can. And as you alluded to on FanDuel, I think it's pretty easy to get him in. We have a ton of value, and you could actually pay up for a few high-priced guys. And Westbrook's just cruising right now. Even when James Harden was in the lineup, he's been getting it done, and he's got at least 60.3 DK points 6 of the last 7 games. We know Dallas is not great defensively. They won't have Luka here. Should be a high-paced game. So, I mean, it's hard to go against Westbrook right now with the way he's playing.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. Like, this is peak Westbrook. I didn't know if we were going to see this level for him with Harden. And early in the season, we weren't. He was slumping. It seemed like they had trouble figuring it out. But right now, on an absolute roll. The guy below him, a little bit cheaper, both sites, 9,900 and 10-1 over on FanDuel and DraftKings. Dame Lillard coming off just a ridiculous hot streak right now. He's gone for, 70-plus fantasy points in 4 straight games. The one thing with him, with me, is, one, the point spread, 13-point spread I think I saw last. But also, he's done all that production at home where he always plays better. Now he's going to go on the road into LA. Does that bother you at all?
It really doesn't. I actually think that line is way too high. I think Portland can keep this game close. I think Portland's already beaten the Lakers this year, too. We don't know how the Lakers are going to be tonight in their first game since the death of Kobe Bryant. We can all sit here and say, oh, they're going to be fired up. They're going to blow them out. But we just don't know. It's hard to gauge that human emotion. And at the same time, Damian Lillard could be pumped up for this game and want to showcase what he's been doing. I mean, this run right now is insane. He's got 33 pointers over the last 4 games. And, yeah, I don't know. I mean, our ownership showed 9.25% on FanDuel, 12.71% on DraftKings. I think he's a solid tournament play because we know there's a huge ceiling there. And I think the Blazers are going to be able to keep this game close. So it's hard to say that he's going to have another 70. But, hey, it's Dame time, man, so I'm not going to doubt him.
Taking a lot of shots, that's for sure. And no Carmelo Anthony's usage rate, I think, is up towards like 38% or something like that with Melo off the floor and sort of the team that they got around him. So it's certainly doable. John Morant is in the game with the highest game total. I know you wrote the Wager Alarm Best Bets article today. You actually took the under in that game. Is that a reason to be worried with Morant, or do you think he's still fine for DFS purposes?
No, I don't think it's a reason to worry. I mean, if it hits 240, I'm happy. I win,
True.
and DFS community's happy. I just think it's a little bit too high. I think everyone's looking at this game, two fast-paced teams, bad defense, and automatically think it over. That's just a very high number. Memphis has been going under that number lately. They're 7-2 on the under their last 9 games, and even the Pelicans. Pelicans had a stretch. I think there were 9 or 10 straight games going over, and they've been going under a little bit recently. They haven't been scoring as much, and these two teams met a couple weeks ago. It was 242. So I think it could be a little bit lower tonight. Memphis dealing with some injuries, but Morant, looks like the minutes limit is gone. It's not a back-to-back, and the Pelicans have struggled against point guards this year. And Morant's had a nice stretch here over the last, 11, 12 games. 10 of the last 11 games, at least 34.8 DK points. So I think he's a good tournament play.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like you mentioned, they're dealing with injuries to Brandon Clark, De'Anthony Melton. They're dealing with suspension to Jaren Jackson. So those guys being off the floor, could certainly hurt their offense, but it could also maybe throw a little bit more usage over on a guy like John Morant as well, with them away from the court. So not bad. Someone that last night Fency and I were kind of in awe, and mostly all of OKC, but Chris Paul, price drop on Chris Paul in this matchup against Phoenix. And we'll get to Gilgeous-Alexander and Schroeder, who also took price drops for whatever reason in this matchup. Why don't you talk about sort of Paul and how he stacks up to Morant in this mid-tier for you?
Yeah, I mean, I like Morant a little bit better. I mean, with Paul, it's just there's some games he doesn't score a lot, but I think this could be a fast-paced game here against the Suns. These teams have met once already this year. The Thunder, I don't know. They seem to not really get a lot of respect. I think now I see them as like a point and a half underdogs when they opened up as -1. They're one of the best teams against the spread. They're 29-20, and I just think people are surprised at how well they're playing. And look, it's never easy to win on the road, but I think the Thunder are going to put some points up tonight. So, Paul's pretty cheap. And, if he fits your build, we've seen him recently, reach the 46.5 DK point mark 3 of the last 6 games. And he could get there tonight. And if he does that, you're getting basically about, 7X.
Yeah, I agree. For value, one of the highest owned plays, again, we already mentioned it as we kicked off, like Jalen Brunson started when Luka was out earlier. We're expecting him again to start. We know Houston's been terrible against point guards this year. Under $4,000 on both FanDuel and DraftKings. He's going to be the chalk. Is there any reason for you not to play him outside of being contrarian? Like, do you see Brunson coming through for us tonight?
He should. I mean, again, he's had a 4-game stretch when Doncic was out. He had at least 29.1 FanDuel points. So at this price, if he does that, you're going to be thrilled. He had a usage rate of 22.2% without Doncic on the floor. But you're right. That's the thing with this Dallas rotation. We don't know. It could be J.J. Barea, DeLone Wright, Tim Hardaway, who we'll get to. I mean, we know Kristaps Porzingis, obviously. Yeah. But I'm going to go based on what we've seen in the past, and the price is just so cheap. He's going to be highly owned in cash. Cash, don't even think about it, because if he does flop, you're going to be right there with everyone else.
Right.
Tournaments is where look, anybody who we know is highly owned in tournaments, you always want to consider the fade, because if that player flops, now you're ahead of half the field. So I know how tempting it is to put him in there. And if you're playing multiple lineups, you can fade him in a couple. Yeah. But it's just hard to get away at this price.
It really is. Under $4,000 on DraftKings, especially when you want to pay up for some of these other guys. Almost a lock for your lineup. Something that I've been on today, not in your playbook today, but I want to get your opinion on it anyways, and it goes more towards that matchup as well, is Tyus Jones. He's $3,100 on DraftKings. We don't know the status of De'Anthony Melton. He was doubtful. Then he participated in shoot around. Still kind of questionable. If he doesn't play, you're getting a guy that's backup point guard. They're already shorthanded, playing 20 minutes a night. In the last 3 games, 21, 18.75, 19.75 fantasy points. At $3,100, that's 6-7x value, and it can open up even more salary for you, because Brunson at 36, 37. Is Tyus have any radar on you for you this play?
Yeah, I think so. Especially if Melton is ruled out. My guess is there's a chance he plays, since he was upgraded, but still a game time decision. So yeah, I mean, at 3,100 and them being shorthanded, he could get 20, 25 minutes. Yeah, and we've seen, and especially in this environment against the Pelicans, sure, I think that's definitely someone you can consider at that price.
Yeah, again, just someone that I was during my research today, especially trying to get exposure to that game in maybe a little bit contrarian ways where I felt everybody else was going. He kind of popped out for me at value. Let's take a look at your shooting guard spot. You have Harden at the top. One of these days he's going to go off, right? And ownership on him was high the other day. That surprised me when he was ruled in. I thought maybe people would still go with Lillard or Westbrook over him, but it was Harden at 40%. It seems like people can't quit him. We have him at 40% again tonight. How are you feeling about James here? Is he, again, maybe if you're playing multiple lineups, you got to get him in one. Does he make a primary lineup for you?
Yeah, I don't think he makes a primary. I'm actually surprised at this ownership because I thought it was going to be lower, but I guess everyone is
40% the other day. It was pretty.
Right.
I didn't expect that at all.
It's higher today. I guess part of it is the value that we have, that people feel they can get him in. I mean, look, he hasn't been good. I mean, it was even before the injury, he wasn't good. He had 36 FanDuel points the other day. So now that I see this ownership, I might not play him at all. I mean, definitely not. I'm not playing him in cash games. I know you can do it on FanDuel because I was messing around with it, and I just didn't feel good about it. There's still some cheaper shooting guards that you can go with that I feel better about. But we know Harden's going to go off one of these days, and I think people know that, and they're just sitting there waiting because they don't want to see him go off.
Right,
and then go,
not have action on it.
I should have had him at 10-1. Now he's back up to 11. Damn, I missed it. So, if you play a ton of tournament lineups, yeah, you should have him in a couple. If you're playing one lineup, no, I don't think you play him.
Yeah, I think you're right there. If I'm playing the 3-max tonight, Harden probably makes one of the 3 lineups. Just in case he goes off. I love what you put in your next guy here because I'm a big narrative guy myself. The Devin Booker snub of the All-Star game. If anybody was more deserving, between him, we saw Bradley Beal go off last night after he got snubbed. It's real. Players get very upset when they're not going to the All-Star game. We saw Dame Lillard routinely have monster nights the day after the All-Star game losses were announced. So I'm buying in on this Booker All-Star snub narrative here. Also helps that he's been playing out of his mind. And he's home OKC, not the best defensive team of late either. So I'm big on Booker tonight. I would definitely play him over Harden, and I think he's on most slates where we think shooting guard is very stacked and we don't find a need to pay all the way up. I think Booker is someone to pay up for.
Yeah, I think you can tonight in tournaments too. I don't think we're going to get a crazy amount of ownership tonight, and he's definitely going to be motivated to go out there. And he already talked about it today, and he wasn't really happy about it. So he's having a great year, averaging over 27 points per game. He's hit the 44.9 FanDuel points in 5 of the last 6 games, and this could be a game where he just explodes tonight.
Yeah, coming on 57 fantasy points in 31 minutes against Dallas on DraftKings the other day. So upside is for sure there. Who are some of your other favorite shooting guards on the slate?
Yeah, I think Zach LaVine against the Brooklyn Nets. When he has favorable matchups, he can go off, especially if that shot's going off. And he's had 67 FanDuel points twice in the last 7 games. Both did come against Cleveland, but we know Brooklyn's not that good. Drew Holiday, that Memphis Pelicans game. And, I know they're fully healthy. You got Zion Williamson back and Lonzo Ball there. But Holiday's coming off a huge game against the Cavaliers. And he's looked pretty good since he's come back from injury. And the Grizzlies ranked 27th in defensive efficiency against shooting guards. So, he's fairly priced at 7,600. Dennis Schroeder, obviously. I mean, the price doesn't go up on FanDuel, man.
It never does. They just, don't touch him.
Right. I mean, he's played at least 30 minutes in 6 straight games. We all know he comes off the bench. I think he started 1 in there when Paul was out, but he scored at least 21 points in all those games. He has at least 33 FanDuel points in 6 straight games. In the last 2 games, 42.4, 43.3, and the Suns not great against shooting guards, so he's in a good spot tonight. Dylan Brooks, more, the price.
I love Dylan Brooks tonight. I think if you're going to get exposure, you must have Dylan Brooks in your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, look, he is not afraid to shoot it. If you watch him play, he will shoot. Now, he doesn't do much else. That's the one thing. But he scored at least 20 points in 7 of the last 8 games. Maybe he takes some more shots tonight. We talked about that environment.
He lit up the Pelicans in that game a couple of games ago. 53 fantasy points, 31 actual with 9 boards that night. There could be more rebounds around with no Jaren Jackson tonight, no Brandon Clark. There could be, they have to play a little bit smaller. Sometimes they shift Brooks up to the small forward. Maybe that keeps them around the basket a little bit more if they have to play Jay Crowder or power forward tonight. Brooks at 6K for me just seems like a steal.
Yeah, for sure. And he definitely has the big upside, as we've seen numerous times when his shot is on. DeLone Wright for Dallas is interesting. It's all about how many minutes he's going to get. And he's played 4 games without Luka this year and averaged 23.1 FanDuel points. So, if we see that he's starting, I mean, absolutely get him in there. Again, it's a little bit of a risk because we don't know their rotation, but it's a fast-paced game against Houston. And then Kyle Anderson, he's very cheap. Now, he's very frustrating, but again, he could take on. He's got to probably take on a bigger role tonight with all the injuries, the Jaren Jackson suspension. Yeah. Actually, 2 of the last 3 games, he's played 27 and 28 minutes and had 23.3 and 27.4 FanDuel points. So if we can get him in the mid-20s tonight at that price, it'll definitely pay off.
Yeah, we call him myself, Sean, and James call him slow-mo because he barely, when he's on the floor, it's his production is gross. Like the other day, 27 minutes. He got you 20 fantasy points because he does give you some of those defensive metrics, but 27 minutes, 4 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, came through with the block and 3 steals to get you there. So can be very frustrating at times. He's a pure defensive player, and you have to hope he just sort of falls his way into some other things. But value on tonight's slate, I think it's going to be superstars and scrubby. There's just so many guys under 4K, and a lot of guys we want to pay up for. You can fit in those cheap Memphis, Dallas guards and spend up, for the other top plays. So I think you're going to see a lot of lineup construction go that direction. So not terrible to get a guy like Kyle Anderson in there if he can go ahead and give you 25 fantasy points, like you said. Let's jump over to small forward because there's been a little bit of a back and forth in chat today about LeBron James, the narrative LeBron James. If we think with the healthy Anthony Davis, he can actually give us, the 7, 8x upside that we kind of hope for some of these top price plays. He's obviously in the playbook, and we do have high ownership on FanDuel. What's your take on LBJ tonight in this game tonight against Portland?
Yeah, I think he's a good play. Again, it's tough to kind of gauge what the emotion is going to be in LA, but I got to think, they've had several days off. They haven't played since Saturday, so they've had a few days to absorb it. The crowd's obviously going to be wild tonight. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a spot where LeBron just steps up and, he's going to want to honor Kobe. He just passed him on the scoring list the day before the tragic event. So I don't know. It's a feeling. That LeBron's just going to come out tonight and kind of take over this game. It's a great matchup against the Blazers. He's already had 2 games against them this year, and he's averaging 26 points, 12 assists, 7 rebounds. So it's not only the narrative; it's a great matchup too. They're home, and we can afford it tonight. That's why the ownership is so high on FanDuel. It's easy to get it 3 high-priced guys if you want.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's a good play tonight, and he's probably going to be highly owned in cash. Maybe on DraftKings as we see lower ownership, but even there, with all the value, I think you can play him tonight.
Yeah, again, I've been on the side of I think he comes out and has like a triple-double, a 30-point triple-double, and just really stamps this one on for LA. But narratives are sort of mythical things. We assume that they're real. We assume players have extra motivation. But this is still a competitive NBA game. These are all still pros. They all still want to win. They're not just going to let LeBron go off. But he is a rare athlete that really can, in my opinion, at least has that next level, has that next gear that we've seen him go to in all those finals games where maybe he comes out and really puts it on. So I'm with you. I'm trying to get LeBron in my lineups tonight. You certainly can do it with all the value there. Other small forwards as we go down. Siakam, still a small forward in FanDuel. I'll forever die fighting that battle, but he's a power forward center on DraftKings. Are you worried at all with this matchup with Toronto and Detroit? I know being into Detroit helps them out a little bit, but is Toronto it's only a 4.5-point spread. It feels like Toronto's a much better team than Detroit, at least on paper to me. So how are you seeing this game going?
I'm a little worried. I could see Detroit covering this game tonight.
Yeah.
'Cause like you said, that line looks too easy. And my initial thought last night was Toronto. And as I looked at it, and Toronto's been playing a lot lately. It's a back-to-back. They only won by 6 last night. So I don't think it's going to be an easy spot, which means, though, the game should stay close, and they're going to need Siakam for a lot of minutes. So, he's not a core play, but there's not a ton of small forwards. So if you don't play LeBron on FanDuel and you got to fill 2 forward spots, you can go with Siakam. And I don't think he'll be highly owned tonight. But it's a good matchup. Detroit has been one of the worst defensive teams over the last few weeks.
Terrible. Yeah, they can't decide how to play their front court either. They're constantly just rotating in 4 or 5 different guys, it seems like, around Drummond too. This doesn't help it. Next guy here, I'm big on Jay Crowder tonight. I mentioned it before. I think they may have to have him play some power forward. He could be the guy that they try to put on Zion as well. Trying to get a little of an athletic wing. It's probably not going to work out too well for him, but he has to play the minutes. He's played over 30 minutes recently. He's been productive. Under $5,000 on both sites. I'm surprised we don't have higher ownership for him on DraftKings at just the 14%. Ownership on FanDuel does make sense, but again, we're sort of being redundant here. Like, we know Memphis and New Orleans is going to be popular. High game total. Crowder's going to be in a lot of builds, I feel like, tonight because of the lack of depth there. So go ahead. If he works for you.
Yeah, it's just a good price, and it's a good spot, and we saw him have a good game against the Knicks. He was struggling for a little bit, missed some time with injury, but played the 29 minutes, had the 31.4 FanDuel points, and he should be able to get there again tonight in this environment. They're just going to lean on him a little bit more, and it's a good matchup. So it's tough not to play him on FanDuel tonight, especially in cash games.
Yeah, I agree with you. Someone that's not on your playbook, but he's actually one of the higher on ownership. Solomon Hill, again, another Memphis Grizzly. But in terms of salary, mint price as a small forward on FanDuel. Over on DraftKings, Hill is priced out at mint price as well. So $3,000 and $3,500. Small forward, power forward. He's another guy that I liken to Kyle Anderson, where he's on the floor. He doesn't really do much of anything. But at mint price, is he another guy worth taking a dart on here?
Yeah, again, we can't have too many guys from this team, but depending on what we see as the final
starting lineup, maybe,
right, and who's in, who's out. Yeah, I mean, if we see him in the starting lineup, then I think you could consider him for sure.
Okay. Yeah, he's again just purely based off our ownership that we had come in. He's I think I saw him. I'm gonna pull it up real quick right now. I think it's almost like the third highest owned player, which I kind of shook my head. I'm like, oh man, if we're in for a Solomon Hill night, he is. So it's been updated at least a little bit. So he's now the seventh highest owned. He's 20% ownership over on DraftKings. So 20% at min price Solomon Hill. It's not a 20% I want to be a part of because I don't think much of him as a player. But again, he's so so valuable to get all those stars and scrubs. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Other small forwards you have in your lineup, but I actually think these guys are in really great spots. You have Trevor Ariza without Carmelo Anthony tonight, and he actually gets a high usage bump without Melo. I think I saw that he gets a 4 or 6% usage bump with Anthony out the floor. Now, they haven't had a ton of time to play together this year, but Ariza did come off a really good game, and it's the Lakers. I think he's going to have to play a lot to defend some of those wing plays. And then Tim Hardaway Jr. is another player that was really productive when Luka was out earlier.
Yeah, I mean, both to me are only plays on FanDuel. I don't like the prices on DraftKings. Ariza's 43 on FanDuel, and look, he's playing big minutes, 35, 31, and 38 minutes since coming over. He's had 2 good games and 1 really bad one. But at 4,300, look, if you don't want to play LeBron and you're spending elsewhere, you can pair Crowder and Ariza. That opens up a lot of money. I don't think you need to do that tonight on FanDuel, but hey, it's a different build. And as far as Hardaway, I'm not playing him on DK at 6,000. We don't know exactly his role, but 4,300 as a small forward on FanDuel. He's probable now with this back injury, but if he plays, he should see close to 30 minutes. We know he'll take more shots without Luka there. That's a lot of usage that is not there with Luka being out. So Hardaway in this matchup against Houston could go off.
Before we jumped on air, the Rockets did come out with their starting lineup. Daniel House is going to be starting tonight in for Clint Capella. House is $3,900 on FanDuel at small forward. He's $4,600 small forward, power forward on DraftKings. Any interest in House now that he's starting?
Yeah, you could look at him on FanDuel. I don't think I would do it on DraftKings, but yeah, I think you can.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they just ignore Hart. They're actually going with Tucker at center. So House is still playing small. So you're getting Tucker at center tonight against, I presume, Porzingis is going to start at center or Kleber going to start at center for them. If they don't go Cauley-Stein. They only gave Cauley-Stein like a handful of minutes the other day. Don't know why you would trade for a guy and not play him, but whatever. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how that ends up shaking out. Let's go over to power forward, though. Anthony Davis, under 10K on DraftKings. You made a point to point that out in the analysis. I saw it too and kind of rubbed my eyes a little bit. this is a really great spot for him against Portland.
Definitely. I mean, it's LeBron James and him both active. I think that kind of scares people off. But in his last game, he had 47.3 DK points against the Sixers. So with the value that's opened up tonight, it allows you to get him in. And again, great matchup against the Blazers, and he could go off. So anytime he's under that price, I think you have to consider him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the upside there is tremendous. Obviously, we always like it a little bit better with if one of those two were out, LeBron or Anthony Davis, but AD at that price is fine. I mean, like I said, even 10,300 for LeBron really isn't that bad. We're getting some injury news coming in. Brendan Clark officially ruled out. Tim Hardaway Jr. officially in. So nothing we weren't really already expecting. So I guess that makes sense. It's upsetting because Clark was actually one of my favorite plays today going into the slate, and then he got ruled out.
Yeah, that was just going to say that. Like, he was going to be like a lock and load. He's been playing very well, even with limited minutes. He's been in like the mid-20s lately and really produced, and he was going to be in a prime spot today with no Jaren Jackson.
No Jaren Jackson. That's why
terrible. It's terrible, and he was very cheap. Yeah, it's just the worst timing if you are a brand.
And you think about the Zion matchup, like, Clark would have been a guy to go up there. So, it's frustrating. With Luka out, Porzingis, I guess the one question here is how limited is he going to be? Because he's been on a minutes limit since returning. He played 27 in his return, so I have to think he's at least at like a 27, 28-minute limit. He only played 20 in the blowout the other day, but he was dominant against teams when Luka was out earlier, and Luka played in that game against Houston earlier this season when Porzingis went for 50. So now you're having Porzingis without Luka in this game. I think even at 28 minutes, we have him projected for almost 40 fantasy points, and we had some questions if we thought maybe we were high on him in our projections today in our chat. I think that's doable. 28 minutes, 40 fantasy points in this matchup for Porzingis. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think he's a core play tonight. He's too cheap, 64 and 68. You use him in cash. He's got a 28.6% usage rate without Doncic on the court, averaging a double-double without him, 22.5, 13.8 rebounds. So, yeah, I think you got to play him tonight.
Yeah, I agree. Other power forwards, again, Zion. I've gone back and forth on him today because he doesn't give you a lot of secondary stats. He gives you points. He gives you rebounds, but he's averaging less than a steal per game, less than a block per game, 1.5 assists per game. So, I mean, at $7,000 over on DraftKings, 35 fantasy points is only 5x, 43, 6. Does he do enough to get you in that upper tier? Now, it is a great game for him in terms of pace and total, but am I wrong to have these hesitations? Do you think this is a night where he pops?
He can, but yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to go there. I mean, these ownership totals are much higher than I thought. I think he's more of a tournament play. I don't think you need to use him in cash. If he gets to 30 minutes, which he came close to last game, in this scoring environment with his efficiency, he could get there. But I don't think you have to. I mean, among power forwards, he's one of the better ones, but I don't think you need to play him tonight.
Yeah, and that's sort of been where I've been. Like, I was initially drawn to him because the usage is great, the game total, yada, yada, yada. But then I'm looking at him like I need to see more secondary stats that really haven't been there. So I know he can certainly, explode, but, we'll have to wait and see, exactly what goes on. Talk about the rest of the power forwards. Who else was kind of on your radar here?
Yeah, Jared Allen, power forward eligible on FanDuel. Bulls really struggle to defend big men, and we've seen Allen be able to produce even if he doesn't get 30 minutes. He's got at least 32.5 FanDuel points in 4 of the last 6 games. Serge Ibaka, way too cheap again on FanDuel at 5,700. He played 33 minutes last night, had 26 points, 4 boards. He's got at least 35 FanDuel points in 3 straight games with 2 double-doubles. And it's another good matchup against the Pistons. So hard to get away from him on FanDuel at that price. I mean, you can get a nice pairing of Porzingis and Ibaka and save some money. It allows you to pay up for LeBron, pay up for a point guard. And then on DraftKings mostly, and more for cash games, Thaddeus Young. He's so boring. He's got at least 22.3 DK points in 4 straight games. It's a matchup against the Nets. So you're seeing he has got double-digit percentage ownership on DraftKings because he's 5K. But for cash, he just got no upside in tournaments.
Yeah, I agree. He used to be like a guy that would get you steal some blocks in his heyday. Not anymore. We're still at a game time decision for Dancy Melton. I wish they would just rule him out. Let me play Tyus and be happy. Let's go to center. You only have a couple centers in here, I think, for good reason. Nikola Jokic, you have at the top. He's a guy that I just don't play. I don't get him right. Yeah, Giannis is active tonight. You didn't actually have any Bucks in your playbook. Are you just fading the Bucks tonight?
Yeah, because you could play Giannis. He's so expensive, though. So you can, I guess, on FanDuel where you have it. But I think a lot of people are going to go with LeBron. So if you want to be different, you go with Giannis. And the other guys are priced up with Giannis being out. Middleton's coming off that big game, but we're not going to see that with Giannis on the floor. They're huge favorites. Denver's coming off a back-to-back. They played at home last night against Utah, and they had to expend a lot of energy to come back in that game. They were down most of the way. So usually I don't really play too many Bucks unless someone's out. So really don't love anyone on that team tonight. Yeah,
they're definitely priced up a little bit coming off their big games. So I just wanted to see how you feeling about that. You have Jokic as your top center, price center here. It is a good matchup. Brook Lopez isn't going to do anything really to defend him. I guess my question is actually on some of these other Denver players that didn't make the playbook because, again, as sort of news comes out, we find out Gary Harris is out again. We saw Torrey Craig start last night. He played 35 minutes, I think it was. 35 minutes. 35 fantasy points. He had a double-double in that one, 2 blocks and a steal. The other game that he started earlier this year, he had a double-double as well for 35 fantasy points. Only $3,600 on DraftKings for Torrey Craig as a shooting guard, small forward in place of Harris. Craig is also shooting guard at $3,900 on FanDuel. And then Michael Porter Jr. came off the bench last night, had himself a double-double in 25 minutes. Porter Jr. is only $4,800 on FanDuel, and on DraftKings, Porter is priced out at $5,400. Any interest in Craig or Porter in this spot against Milwaukee?
Porter. I'd definitely be interested in Porter. He's played very well. Should see, I think, a little bit of a minutes uptick with Harris being out. And when called upon this year, for the most part, he's produced. So Porter, definitely.
Yeah, plus if Craig doesn't, have a nut game like he did last night, they're probably more apt or more willing to play Porter anyhow. So I don't disagree with you there. Other centers that you have on here, as we talk down the list, DeAndre Ayton, Hassan Whiteside. To me, they're very difficult kind of to pick and choose which one you want. But, Ayton lately has just really been rolling. So I kind of lean him, but how do you decide?
Yeah, I think it's very close. Lean Ayton as well. People are going to look at the Whiteside and say, oh, it's a tough matchup against the Lakers. But he had a good game against them when he played against them last time, 19 points, 16 boards, 4 blocks. We know there's always a good shot at a double-double, 3 of the last 6 games. So, but Ayton I like a lot, man. It feels like people aren't talking about him enough. Maybe it's just me, but he's got at least 49.3 DK points in 2 straight games. He's averaging a double-double. I really like him in this spot tonight.
Former number 1 overall pick just last year. So the talent and pedigree is certainly there. And we'll wrap up the center position with the guy that we have as the highest owned play on the slate, Jonas Valanciunas. Our biggest complaint for him is always that he doesn't get the minutes. Well, tonight they don't have a backup center. They're going to have to go Jonas, or they're going to have to go really small. So he should get 30-plus minutes tonight, I would hope. $6,300 on DraftKings is an incredible price tag for him, knowing that he only needs 31.5 DraftKings points for 5X. He can go for 40 or 50 tonight, I think, in this spot. So for me, he's my top center. Where does he rank in centers to you?
Yeah, definitely the top center because he's got to play 30-plus minutes tonight. And the last 2 games, 31 and 34 minutes. And that's always the thing with him when I look at him, too many 25, 26-minute games. That's not good. It shouldn't happen tonight. He's got 2 straight double-doubles. It's a good matchup here against the Pelicans. So you can understand why he's so popular. And this is one of those times where you go, can't worry about the ownership, the salary, the matchup. It's just too good. Just play it. And if he sucks, you know what? It's the right decision.
Everybody else has
to work out.
I would be stunned for him to be bad. He's always just been a dominant player when he gets the playing time. So, he's just a very big dude, and it seems maybe conditioning is a problem or he's not agile enough. I don't know. But tonight should be a night where, he overmatches favors, and then if they put in Jackson Hayes or if they go Zion at center, I can't imagine his size not playing up against either of those two guys as well. So for me, I'm buying all in on Jonas tonight. That brings us to the end of the live stream, though. It's 6:37. Roster locks at 7. Adam, any final words of wisdom?
Yeah, figuring out the Grizzlies and Mavericks rotation is going to be key tonight. Getting that value, that will probably be the difference tonight.
Yeah, I'm hoping we find out that news at some point because both of them don't play until after roster lock tonight. So it would be appreciated, NBA, if you're listening, to get us those status. But that does it. Get us on Twitter if you have any questions. Subscribe or chat if you have any questions. We'll be there to help you out. For now, good luck, and we'll talk to you all later.